isn't the answer. Could you please repeat the question? Hello, this is Pat Coakley, and this is PODSNACKS Art of the Diet, the monthly attempt to ask the right question and get the right answers on how to maintain a significant weight loss. I've been doing this for 3 years, and the archive of podcasts and blog posts are available on www.artofthediet.com. So today I interviewed Lori, who is on Weight Watcher Connect, and I'll include her Connect handle in the podcast notes. She had some wisdom for all of us, I think. But I labeled this interview a commitment to time, not to lost pounds. And I think you'll see why I did. I know that it had a particular resonance to me as a daily weight maintenance person. So I'll let you decide. I'm sure you'll have some other takeaways as well. So here's Lori. I would love it if you could just give me, as best as you can remember, when you first thought of yourself in need of a diet.
Well, that's interesting, and I do remember, it was when I was very, very young. I remember, and I really wasn't a chubby kid. I maybe was more round than some of my classmates.
Yep.
But I remember sitting in class and having a boy walk down the aisle next to my desk and sort of wiggle funny and make fun of how I looked in a bathing suit.
Really?
And that memory sticks in my mind. And I probably was about 10.
Oh, boy.
And I do have sort of an athletic build, and I carry more of my weight in my legs.
Yep.
And I do remember looking at other women and thinking, gosh, their legs are so skinny, you know.
Yep, me too.
What's wrong with me?
Yep.
And then and my mother also dealt with weight issues. She wasn't obese, but she definitely could have lost 30, 40 pounds, and we're both very short. So 20 pounds on a short person really shows up.
Yep.
And I remember starting Weight Watchers with her so many times. And this was in the 60s.
Yep.
And I remember we went together to a diet doctor who prescribed diet pills to us.
Yep.
And I was 13, and I'm sure now my mother would be rolling over in her grave if she looked back and realized what she did to me.
And they wouldn't prescribe them to you now. They wouldn't prescribe them to you now. Yep, same thing happened to me too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then I think all through high school, I was, well-liked. I had a lot of friends. I don't remember being teased in high school. And again, I really wasn't overweight.
Yep.
But I remember in my early 20s, my mother and I went to a fasting camp for a week. And you literally did not get anything to eat for a week except water.
Oh, God.
I can't believe we even did it.
Oh, man.
But that started, those are the real memories that stick out of my mind. And then from then on, you start getting a complex, oh my gosh, I must really have to lose weight. And so that's when the meat eating started, and my weight started fluctuating more to where then I probably really did have to lose weight. And then really it was on and off diet until I was 65.
And
and I'm 67 now.
Right. And, I had my aha moment at 64. And
hmm
I wonder, what was it about being 64 that impacted you?
Well, all I remember is that I thought, I just can't keep doing this. It's not working. I'm not happy. I'm on and off the diet. I think health started becoming more and more important to me as I got older,
Yeah.
which in the beginning of, when I was young, it was just for vanity reasons completely.
Yeah.
And I, I did have a valve replacement 10 years ago, which was very successful. And I had foot surgery about 8 years ago, and I had 14 screws put into one foot
Wow.
because I had a lot of pain. And I remember asking the doctor, what are the chances of this happening to my other foot? It was an awful recuperation from it.
Oh.
And he said, well, let's put it this way. Both of your feet were created at the same time.
Oh.
And so I thought, oh my gosh, it cannot help me that I'm carrying around 20 to 30 pounds on this short frame body. The least I can do is get this weight off, and maybe I can avoid, a second surgery.
Yep. Wow.
And now I'm very active now, and I have a little foot pain, but I'm sure that I'll never need that surgery. And I'm sure if I was 30 pounds heavier, I would have had to have it by now.
Wow, you know what? It's true. I have a similar story that I won't go into now, but that's exactly what turned me around to the reality of maybe there are things I can't do anything about, but I can do something about this, and that's going to impact some things that are in my future for sure. And so it's interesting. So when you said to yourself, I just don't think I want to do this, roller coaster thing any longer, what did you decide to do?
Okay, well, no matter what ridiculous diet or book I bought and started and failed at, I always went back to Weight Watchers when I felt like I just had to do something sensible.
Okay.
I felt like it was the one program that I could suit to my needs. And I used to say to myself, if I can't lose weight following this kind of a program, which wasn't very restrictive, there's nothing that will work. And so when I joined the last time, I said to myself, okay, I'm not even going to make a commitment as to how much I want to lose. I'm going to commit to doing this for 1 full year.
Okay.
So I changed my goal from one of pounds to one of time. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah.
And I said, no matter what, I'm going to stick with this for 1 year, whether I mess up, whether I don't mess up. And I lost very, very slowly.
Yep.
Probably not even a pound a week. And it took me a year, and I lost 20 pounds.
A commitment of time and not pounds. Is that the phrase?
Right.
Yeah. Wow, that's smart.
I made my goal one of time, and I just said, I'm sticking with this for a year, because I never could stick with anything more than a few months.
Yeah, would that have been the longest, a couple of months, of all the other ones?
Yeah, I'd say maybe a little longer, but not much.
Yeah.
But never for a year. And, there's always an excuse. I was a teacher, so first would be Halloween, and then Christmas was coming. But everybody knows.
Right.
There's always something around the corner. There's never a perfect time to do it.
Groundhog Day.
And
really, anything. Well, and so what did you learn in that year that you really hadn't had an opportunity to learn about yourself because you'd never given this commitment of time before?
Well, I'm sure you've heard this from a million professional dieters. I was a perfectionist, and so I didn't like it. If I had a bad week, I didn't like the way it looked on my card.
Yep.
If I didn't track well, I didn't like the way that looked. So I always thought I had to start over. And so this time I just said, no matter how bad I mess up, and I messed up a lot, I didn't do it perfectly by any means.
Yeah.
I am not stopping. I'm just going to wake up the next day and do it again.
Wow.
And I still have to do that now.
Yeah, I know it. I know. Oh, amen.
It's harder now. It's definitely harder now.
Well, and that's what you don't hear. Yeah, that's what you don't hear
now, because I feel like even in this last month, I've had a huge mental transition. I am actually about 5 pounds higher than I was when I got to my Weight Watcher ideal goal.
Yep.
But I sort of feel like my head is in a better place now than it was, and I can't really put my finger on it. I don't think I'm worried as much about that number, which is a huge transformation for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of trying to concentrate more on healthy habits, and also really watching when I have a binge episode, which is, I think, what derails me. I do really well. I like healthy foods. I eat quite well, and then I'll just have a night when it's always 3 things. I'm either overtired, over hungry, or I've overeaten at the previous meal, and then I think, why bother? And I have a bad evening of eating.
So
being aware of that now is helping.
How does it practically help you? Because it is such the critical peg, I think, of when you recognize that you are on the slippery slope and you're aware of it. How do you get yourself back to flat ground?
Yeah. Well, I'm not really much of a journal writer, but I said to myself this time, because when I'm on the verge of having a binge, I know I'm going to do it. And there's nothing that's stopping me. I'm just going to do it. But I did say to myself this time, when I feel like that, I am going to be really aware of it, and I'm going to document it afterwards.
Okay,
and
it's smart.
Just the fact that I'm sort of changing, that little piece of behavior has made a difference. Because now I just changed my goals from that scale number to, okay, how many days can I go maybe without a binge? And if I have one, I'm going to write it down. And I'm also trying to keep track of how much protein I'm eating, because everything you read says the more protein you have, the less cravings you're going to have.
Right.
So I just sort of changed the focus of what my goal is deliberately, so I'm not going crazy with the scale number.
Boy, I think you've just described the reason you're going to be successful this time around.
I hope so. I feel like I've sort of opened a new door here.
Yeah, I can see why. Because you're basically saying, at least from my point of view, that you are capable of returning to old habits. But what you have today that you didn't have 5 years ago was you've included this, I'm going to be conscious of what I'm doing by documenting it.
Yes.
And I'm not going to judge myself, or I'm not going to hurl insults at myself, but I'm going to document what I have eaten. And that's a very powerful difference between just binging and then going, what the hell? I've gone this far. I'm going to go a few more days. So that's really important.
I always say it's not even that episode it's sort of what you do afterwards. And sometimes I don't feel like doing what I should be doing afterwards, but
Right.
you don't always have to feel it. You just have to do it, and it becomes habit after a while.
Well, that's really. Have you seen this play out, this discipline, in other areas of your life? Have you become more
Yeah,
purposeful?
yeah. I like walking and I like being active, but there's definitely days when I don't feel like doing it, and I say to myself, I don't really have to feel like doing it. Just get out there and do it anyway. Don't have to worry so much about how I feel. And most of the time, I mean, it's very rare that I've come back from a walk when I didn't want to go and come back and say, I wish I didn't do that. I mean, that never happens.
Exactly. And have you noticed that by taking this problem and not listening to the feeling part of it, but just doing it, has sort of steadied the perfectionist angle that you were dealing with initially when you were losing the weight? When you probably were more severe
definitely
with yourself.
And I still have to fight that. But at least I know what that looks like, and I know what I'm doing is wrong when I get into that mindset. So I can be more deliberate about how I move on from it.
Can you give an example of that mindset that you have to fight in order to free yourself, really, to be more at ease with this up and down issue?
Yeah, I can give a couple.
Okay.
One thing is I started writing in this journal, and me being the student that in college wanted to recopy her notes if they were messy. And I really did that, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
I said to myself in the journal, okay, I maybe have scribble marks. I'm going to make some, I'm not going to print the exact same way every day, and I'm going to deliberately try to avoid it having to look perfectly beautiful, and really it looks better when it's more imperfect. And the other thing was, for example, I've been really eating very carefully and mindfully for last week, and we had friends over last night with a lot of snacky food, and I didn't do well at all.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed in myself. But typically after that, number one, I wouldn't track it. And number two, and I wouldn't track it, number one, because I didn't want to face what it said, but also because I don't think I could have tracked it perfectly, because I didn't remember how many chocolate-covered almonds I had or whatever. And I said, okay, I'm just going to track it the best I can. And the other thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't wake up this morning and decide, okay, today's a clean slate. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to try to go too low in my calories or points today. I'm going to eat so I'm satisfied, and I'm just going to go on from there. And I also got on the scale today, which I would never do before.
Me too.
And the scale was up.
Yep.
But I know if I get back with it, the scale will go down. And I'm almost forcing myself to get on the scale, so I sort of become more immune to the number. And
me too. That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. Yep. I now look at it. I now look at it as more a real ally as opposed to the devil incarnate.
Exactly. Or the fact that, or I'll just, to spite it, I'll say, okay, just because the scale was up today does not mean you're going to determine how I'm going to behave today. Yeah. And I sort of feel powerful over it because of that.
Yes, it's interesting. That's a good choice of word. You do feel a power coming from it. When you joined or rejoined Weight Watchers a year ago, or a little more than a year ago, did you go to meetings? Did you do it online? How did you do it?
Well, in California, I am more able to go to a meeting every week just because of how my schedule is, and I really, really like and get a lot from the leader of that meeting.
Okay.
When I come back to Idaho for the summer, we do more traveling to visit our kids, and we have more company here. So I'm just not able to get to the meetings
Yep.
as I would have. But because I'm Lifetime, I've made a point to try to go at least once a month.
Yeah.
And I do like the accountability of it, and I sort of feel like I've gotten wise at the meetings. I don't necessarily agree with everything that is said, but I feel like I can take what's beneficial and
Yep.
think about it from my own perspective.
Yep. Prior to, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
I was just going to say, the other thing about the meetings that I've realized what I love going is that I sort of made it a thing to buy myself a coffee before I go to the meetings. It's my time alone for an hour, sort of like some people go to church or a synagogue.
Yes. Yeah.
I just say to myself, I'm devoting this hour to myself.
Yep.
And so I like it for that reason.
Well, and it also sounds like you're giving yourself a break from very high standards of performance. You've sort of accepted something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was at the high end of my goal weight, and then I actually had my doctor raise it even a little more.
Yeah.
And that's given me, I've been much more relaxed about that. She was totally fine raising my goal. She said, all your blood work is good. You're healthy.
Yeah.
It's not going to change your health.
Yep.
To be 10 pounds lighter than you are now.
Yep.
And I honestly think that I do have 10 pounds on my body that I could get rid of. I'm not being overly vain about it.
Yeah.
But I'm also not stressing about it if I can't get it off at 67 years old.
Yeah.
But I don't want, of course, the scale to be creeping up. And that's always the scary part.
Yeah. Wow, that is very interesting. It sounds like you really developed some strategies that cut your instincts for perfection right off at the pass. You didn't say, I'm not going to be like this person anymore, but I'm just going to observe this person in a way that she's not used to being observed.
Right. And even if I still go in that direction of perfectionism, I think I can step back and say, no, just talk to myself and say, no, I can't go there.
Yes.
What am I doing today that's keeping me healthy?
Do you have
it's hard.
Do you have a go-to, like the day that you wake up and go, I'm not going to beat myself up about last night? Do you have certain go-to foods that you would use that day to get you back?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have a great night last night,
right.
And I woke up this morning and I decided, okay, I know I need some protein. I'm going to have a breakfast that's higher in protein because a lot of times after you've had a night like that, you're even more hungry and crave the wrong things.
Right.
More than normal.
Yeah.
So I had an egg with extra egg whites for more protein.
Yeah.
I made sure I had some kind of healthy fat because I know that satisfies you.
Yeah.
I can't give up my fruit. I love fruit.
Yeah.
I won't ever be on any program where I can't have 2 to 4 pieces of fruit a day.
Yeah.
And I've said from day one, even if it means I'm 10 pounds heavier, I'm not giving up my fruit because to me, fruit's a treat.
Right.
So I had a banana, and, some people might say, well, you shouldn't have a banana because it's higher in sugar, which I sort of know all that. But I thought, no, that's what I feel like eating. That's what I'm going to have.
Yeah.
And I was satisfied until lunchtime. And I had And I know today's a day where I have to drink a lot of water.
So that's
And
one
I
of the
took a long
staples
walk.
that you use to go
Yeah.
to protein, balancing out with maybe a little majority to protein and water as two things that you know you'll do.
Yes.
And yeah.
And I really have to talk myself out of, because all in the past, and even when I was losing the weight, I would think, okay, the next day I have to eat way under what I normally would eat. And I know every time I do that, it backfires.
Yep. Yes. Isn't that true? It's absolutely the truth.
And I don't want to put myself in that on-off thing again. And it's like a punishment the next day, which you already don't feel good about the fact that you overeat, and you don't have to punish yourself. And I also know for me, the minute I feel deprived, or the minute I say to myself, I can't have something, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's a trigger for me too. It's like, really? I can't have it? I'll show you.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I've done no sugar for a while and all sorts of things, and I really felt great when I didn't have the sugar.
Yep, but me too.
I might go weeks without having sugar, but if I put that into a rule, then it doesn't work for me.
Let me ask you, I know I'm just nodding and smiling because your answers could be my answers.
Well, I've listened to your podcast enough where I know you're on the same page with me.
Oh my God.
Similar age. And
absolutely. I mean, I've got you a year-wise, but by about 6 years, but it really is very resonant to me. What I wonder this myself, and I don't really have an answer, so I don't expect you to have an answer either, but I'm going to throw it out there. 64 seems to have been our year to get on board with the reality of what we could do for ourselves health-wise, and aesthetics were not the driving thing. It's always nice to look better and fit in clothes, and that probably predominated in our earlier years more of a factor. Is there any advice you could give to, let's say, a 35-year-old woman who is fighting the fight, doing the crazy diets, joining Weight Watchers, dropping out of Weight Watchers, all the things we did at that age? Is there anything you could have said to yourself at 35 that would have produced the results of you at 64?
Well, I might not have believed it at the time, but I would have said, because I say this now to my son who worries and battles his weight all the time, I always say, anyone can lose the weight, anyone can gain the weight, but it takes a really strong person to maintain the weight. And don't do anything that you don't think you can sustain for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you're eating in a way that you feel deprived, or you're not eating the foods that you enjoy, you're not going to keep the weight off, and it does no good to lose it if you're going to gain it back. So I would definitely say it would be much more important to maintain and eat in a sustainable way than it would be to lose quickly.
And do you think you would have listened to that at 35?
That's a really good question, because young people just want things fast and they can't see the big picture. And I honestly don't know whether I would have listened at that point. I mean, I think I had the intelligence back then to always know in the back of my mind that was the way you had to do it.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have kept going back to Weight Watchers otherwise.
Right. Well, it's interesting. You viewed Weight Watchers as ultimately the sensible diet approach, even though there were plenty other crazy stuff that you did, you knew somewhere
Yeah,
that Weight Watchers was a more livable, doable, sustainable thing if you wanted to do it.
definitely. And if you followed it in a way that works for you,
Yeah,
I think you could be on Weight Watchers and eat horrible food and still stay within your points. And
I get you.
I
Absolutely.
struggled with freestyle a little because I am not good about monitoring portions.
Yeah,
But even though I've struggled with it, I do think it was an attempt to get people closer to intuitive eating and learning to eat when they're satisfied.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I definitely understand why it went in that direction,
yeah.
although I wasn't always good at doing it. And now I'm sort of watching my calories too, I decided to do that just for about a month to see how that compares to the points.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
it's interesting, and it also helps me see what my protein grams are.
Yes.
And most days, if I'm being sensible with the Weight Watcher points, and I'm also tracking the calories, it comes out pretty much the
Even.
same.
That's what I thought. It's interesting you did it because I've often thought that myself. I haven't done it. But I said
Yeah.
I bet in the long run it all evens out.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's been interesting for me to do it. My problem with the freestyle is that I love fruit so much. I could easily eat 9 portions of fruit in a day, and
wow. Yeah.
it's supposedly unlimited. So I really have to watch that part
Yeah.
of it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if new changes are coming now with Weight Watchers, and I'm really, really excited about it because I think it looks to me like it's going to focus less on the scale and more on
Well,
healthy habits.
you know what? Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing because I just got an email about the name
Mm-hmm.
change. And I don't
Well,
go to meetings anymore, so I don't know what the ground level changes are.
well, from what I've read, I'm on Connect. I'm pretty active on Connect,
Okay, right.
and from what I've read, the points and the program food wise aren't going to change much, but there's going to be a lot of other incentives. I don't even know if incentives is the right word.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more focus on other healthy habits and not necessarily so much focus on the scale number. And I really do like the idea that even they're changing the name from Weight Watchers to Wellness That Works, because I think the minute you hear the word Weight Watchers, it's like, okay, we're watching that scale all the time. At least it was for me.
So that's
But I don't know
interesting.
more than
Wellness
that.
that works. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just going to
Yes,
be the letters WW.
it's WW, but it stands for Wellness That Works. And they're
Okay.
totally getting away with the words Weight Watchers, with some people. People are already complaining about things they don't even know anything about. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to a meeting. It's starting to roll out on October 4th, but I'm not going to be able to get to a meeting for the next 3 weeks. So
Right.
I won't
Right.
really know much more.
Right. Well, I think that's it's very interesting because it does try to evolve and does try to reinvent the wheel based on research. And you can't really ask more of an organization than that. And
No.
that's why I agree with you. I think it's the sensible choice. Whatever iteration of this business has been, it's always at least been trying to be sensible and listening to good research. And so, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know we were going the wellness that works. Well, you know what? I must say I have really enjoyed this, and I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of this and are going to be taking notes and nodding their head just like I've been nodding my head, and maybe some of your ways that are now habit to you will stand out to others as maybe something they'll try. And that's the
Well,
gift
I
that
hope
these
so.
interviews do, I think. They just give people another way of thinking about that Groundhog Day that we all have, where the slippery slope is there and we live through it, but it's the next day that
Yes,
differentiates
I
who we
really,
are.
yes, I really think that what helped me so much on this journey was me realizing through Connect that everybody goes through this, even the success stories. It's
Yes.
not like you're the only one, because when you feel like it's just you're the only one, you just don't see a way out.
Yeah. Before I let you go, do you want to share your Connect name? And
Sure.
because people might want to get in touch with you.
Sure. It's Arsby, and that's spelled two A's. AAR, S as in Sam, B as in boy, Y. And the number next to it is 8795.
Okay. I'll try to put that in the podcast notes. So, honest to God, this was great. And I'm going to probably post this next Wednesday. I will send you an email verifying that. But I think next Wednesday will be the, and what I'll do is just edit out, some of my blathering on. And
no, I don't think so.
and then just make it a little more, concise. And, I won't have to do much editing because you were able to really, in a very clear way, share your story and what you're dealing with now. And I really can't thank you enough, Lori. It's going to be helpful to people.
It's really great to hear your voice in person on the phone, even though I hear your voice a lot when I'm taking walks in the morning.
So my thanks to Lori again for this first interview in my new monthly format. And just to go over it, I had started this podcast 3 years ago on a weekly basis, and as of September 2018, I'm moving to a monthly basis and focusing in on interviews with other folks who are fighting the good fight and maintaining a weight loss and sharing some of the ups and downs of that challenge. As many of you know, 3 years of me talking about myself has even sated whatever narcissism I have. And since there's an epidemic of it in the country, I'm not saying any names, I just wanted to say that I'm going to try to take control of it and focus in on other people. Because I really think I learned something new with each interview, and judging from your responses, I think you do also. But the new format does depend on me having a list of people who are willing to share their story. So I wonder if you'd give this a little thought with respect to yourself. You don't have to be in your most successful moment. In fact, I sort of encourage folks who are struggling to contact me at artofthediet at gmail.com, artofthediet@gmail.com, because I think that's what keeps all of us listening, is when we hear people who aren't doing it perfectly, who have tried, who have succeeded, who've lost a little ground, are fighting back. We know that's all of our days. Certain ones stick out in my memory. The evil twin days, where I would set a goal at 9, and 9:05 my evil twin would do the exact opposite. And so I really hope that you give it some thought. And if you know of anybody in your groups or in your contacts or communities that you think has a story that could be told in a 30-minute podcast, please pass on my email and I'll contact them. Okay, I also want to just respond to those folks that have sent emails wondering whether I was in a mental hospital following the months of this Supreme Court justice pick. And, it's September 30th, so they're delayed now for the 1 week FBI. Like, I don't know, but if this happened to me, I wouldn't want the FBI to be hampered by 7 days. You have to do this in 7 days or else. So leave aside that. That's one of my rational responses. Otherwise, my head has exploded, okay, in this past week. And, where do I begin? Leave aside the sexual assault. The performance that I saw in front of that committee, I've never seen anyone mishandle anger worse. And I've had some drunken relatives, okay? I know what not handling your anger is all about. This is a judicial temperament. And when asked if he blacked out, he asked the female senator, do you? What? Do you mean you're going to be wearing black robes and having that sort of response? Oh, please. My head exploded, revolved several times, and then fell off. And one last comment. I think if Oliver Wendell Holmes was accused of sexual assault when he was young, I don't think he'd be saying he was a virgin until he was in his 20s. Okay? This is not a defense against sexual assault. Hello? And I didn't even go to law school. Okay? All right.